I have this package of needles. You can get a package of needles similar to this, and I'll have a ton in there, like 50 different sizes. I think this kind of a package of needles, and they have different ones, not just this brand, may cost like $2.50, but you can get them at any of the craft stores or at a fabric store, etc., or Walmart. So I opened it up because I brought several of these home, and I thought, I have some larger needles in here. The teeny tiny ones are really hard to sew with, and those are for very delicate type of work, and we're not doing that. And I found one of the larger ones, and I did have some embroidery thread, and so I thought, I'll give it a try. So I'm going to show you how to do a running stitch, for this mouth. Now you can use regular thread, but if you do use regular thread, I will show you just how you would double it up to make it look a little thicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little smile on here that's going to be sort of crooked. It's going to kind of go up this direction. So if I don't really want to draw it on here, but especially with a marker, but if I were to draw it with a pencil, it would just kind of be like a crooked smile starting here to there. If you have, let's see if I have a marker that will draw that for me, or a pencil. Okay, I've done it very lightly. I really don't want to draw on it because I don't want that to show through when I'm sewing. So we're going to do the same premise, but I'm going to just show you what you would do if you were using normal thread if you wanted to put a mouth on it. So you're going to, and like I said, this is a really thick needle, and my thread is super thick too. So I'm going to pull it up. There's the knot, and I'm just going to go a little bit over. That's like maybe 1/4 inch. And I've got one line right there. Now, if you were using regular thread, you would literally come right back in the same spot you entered the first time, especially because you want to make it thicker, right? You want to be able to see it, and you're going to go back out in the exact same space that you went out the first time. So what that does is it allows whatever you're creating here to be thicker and seen. So with regular thread, I would go in 3 times, all the same enter and exits that you did with your thread. So now I'm going to come up right next to it, directly next to it, not skipping any lines. In fact, I might kind of connect it to it. I'm going to come up, and since I started with the double stitch, I'm going to go ahead and do the double stitch again. This is a really large needle, and it's a little off center. Not happy about that. So let me just kind of fix that. That's kind of the blessing of embroidery thread, is that I can kind of fill in gaps a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and do this 3 times. So that I can create my little creature's mouth. So maybe I will do 3 times. Sort of learning as I'm going here. Embroidery thread, if you have a grandmother or an aunt or a mom who likes to embroidery and create beautiful designs with this wonderful thread, I am impressed. I have lots of embroidery pieces that were made for me by family members and mainly my grandmother, but I have never learned how to embroidery. It's definitely a lost art, and if you like doing things like this, I would highly recommend learning how to do it. Lots of YouTube videos. Okay, so I'm gonna finish out this, and then I will show you how to do it with regular thread too, just so that you can see what it looks like to do a running stitch. So a running stitch literally just, it's like you're leaping, so I just leap right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and keep going straight. Making my little creature's face a little crooked smile. And I might use embroidery thread to close my creature to put together. It'll be easier for you to see it. What do you think? Maybe a stitch or two more, just so that you can see it better, okay? Everything about what I'm doing is exactly the same except for the fact that I have a really large needle. I think that's perfect. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go into the last stitch that I sewed, stick my needle through it. This is nice and thick, and if I'm not careful I could rip what I'm doing. Bring it back down, make a little knot. I'm going to go straight back through that again and back through my loop. I'm going to put this in my pin cushion. I don't want to dig it in deep. I'll never find it again. And then I'm going to cut it off near the knot. And I don't have a ton of thread left, but I will try it with a couple of stitches. I don't know if I'll get very far, so I can tie this off and continue, maybe sewing on something else. If not, I'll just take it out and change my color and move on to how I want to do it. If you're using a regular needle, of course, we want to tuck, pin stuck. It's a little large for this, just so that we don't lose it, okay? A Ziploc bag is a great place to hold things, or a little plastic bin, or however you're holding all of your supplies together. But letting them be loose is not a good plan. So now I've got my face done, and it's time for me to sew it onto my little monster. And I'm gonna do it a little bit cockeyed there. I'm gonna get my needle threaded up and come back and show you exactly how to do that.